Have you ever wondered who actually runs the country? Not just make the rules, but get things done. Who makes sure the army moves, schemes launch, or treaties are signed? It's not just about power, it's about who holds the remote control of action in India's democracy. Let's find out. Hello everyone, this is Priya. Welcome back to PictoLearning, and I'm so glad to see you here again. Today, we are going to understand Article 73 of the Indian Constitution, which talks about extent of executive power of the Union. Sounds technical? Don't worry. We will simplify everything with easy language and examples. Before understanding Article 73, we need to understand two very important things: executive power and the three lists in our Constitution. What is executive power? In a democracy like India, the powers of the government are divided into three branches: legislative power, executive power, and judicial power. Legislative power means the power to make laws. In India, this is done by the parliament, that is Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. Executive power is the power to implement and enforce laws. This is done by the existing government in power, the President, the Prime Minister, Council of Ministers, and officers. Judicial power is the power to interpret laws and ensure justice. This is done by the courts, Supreme Court, High Courts, and other subordinate courts, etc. You can think of it like this: legislature decides what should be done, executive decides how to do it, and judiciary checks if everything is done as per the constitution. Let's say Parliament passes a law to launch a free midday meal scheme in government schools. Now, who will actually decide how the scheme will work? Make sure schools get the money and resources on time, and check if the meals are really being given to students. That's the executive, the ministers and the government officers who make sure the law is put into action properly. Second thing that we need to understand is the three lists in our constitution: union list, state list, and the concurrent list. To divide powers between the union and the states, our constitution created three lists. Union list contains subjects on which only the central government can make laws. For example, defense, railways, currency, foreign affairs, etc. State list contains subjects on which only state government can make laws. For example, police, agriculture, health, etc. And concurrent list contains subjects on which both union and the state government can make laws. For example, education, forest, marriage, etc. Okay? So now that we know this, let's understand Article 73 of the Indian Constitution. This article contains two clauses, and the first clause contains two subclauses. Clause 1 of Article 73 talks about what areas does the union or the central government control through executive power as allowed by the Constitution. So the executive power of the central government extends to two main areas. Number 1, matters where Parliament can make laws, and number 2, matters where the Government of India can act due to international treaties or agreements, like signing a treaty with another country. Matters where Parliament can make laws. Suppose Parliament has made a law on defense. Then the central government can take executive actions related to defense, like buying weapons, setting up military bases and training camps, launching military operations like surgical strikes or border deployment, etc. Because defense subject comes under union list. In 2016, after the Uri attack, the Indian Army conducted a surgical strike across the LOC. This was an executive action by the Union government under its defense powers. Number 2 was matters where the Government of India can act due to international treaties or agreements. For this, we can take example of BICA agreement. BICA stands for Basic Exchange and Cooperation Agreement. In 2020, India signed the BICA agreement with the United States. It's a defense deal that allows India to access high precision military data like satellite images and real time maps. This helps in improving the accuracy of missiles and surveillances during military operations. This was done under the Union's executive power related to international agreements. But there is one important limitation mentioned in this clause, which says if states also have the power to make laws on a subject like those in the concurrent list, then the central government cannot take executive action in a state on that subject unless the constitution or any law made by the parliament specifically allows it. For example, police is a state subject. Even though there are central agencies like CBI, union government cannot automatically investigate a case in a state unless the state gives consent or any law allows it. So this is the first clause of Article 73. Second clause of this article says that until Parliament makes a new rule, the state governments and their officers can continue to exercise executive powers in their own states just like they were doing before the constitution started. What does this mean? See, before the Constitution came into force in 1950, states were already managing areas like health, police, agriculture, etc. So, unless the Parliament says something new, states will keep doing these things on their own. For example, agriculture is mostly handled by the state governments. They decide how crops are sold, how mandis work, and how farmers get support. If you remember, in 2020, the Union government passed three farm laws to create a new system for buying and selling crops across India. But these laws led to massive farmer protests across the country, especially from Punjab, Haryana, and Uttar Pradesh. Farmers said the law would hurt their income, weaken the minimum support price system, and benefit large corporations. After a year of protest, in 2021, the government withdrew all three laws. They stepped back and states continued managing agriculture just like they were doing it before. This is a real example of Article 73 Clause 2, which talks about states keep exercising their powers unless Parliament clearly takes over. So, this is Article 73, which helps us understand how the powers are divided between the Union and the states. It respects the power of the states, but also gives the Union government the authority to act, especially in matters of national interest. Now let's move to the next article, that is Article 74, which talks about Council of Ministers to aid and advise President. This article is all about one important relationship, the President of India and the Council of Ministers. This article contains two clauses. The first clause of this article answers a simple question. Can the President take decisions alone, or does the President act on someone's advice? And the answer is the President has to act based on the advice given by the Council of Ministers, which is headed by the Prime Minister. In simple words, the President is not free to take independent decisions. The real decision makers are the Prime Minister and the Council of Ministers, and the President is bound to follow their advice. Let's understand this with the help of an example. Let's say a person has been given the death penalty and he files a mercy petition to the President. Now, the President does not decide alone. The Home Ministry and the Prime Minister review the case and they advise the President on what to do, whether to accept or reject the petition. The President is bound to follow that advice, even if he or she personally feels otherwise. This actually happened in several cases, including the Ajmal Kasab case, where the President rejected the mercy plea based on advice from the Council of Ministers. Now, here you might ask one question. Can the President ever disagree with the Council of Ministers? The answer is yes. But this can happen only once. There is a line in clause 1 that says the president may require the council of ministers to reconsider such advice. So what does this mean? This means if the president does not agree with the advice, they can send it back once for reconsideration. But after that, if the council gives the same advice again, the president must accept it. Now we need to know one important thing about Article 74. Article 74 is an amended article and it has been amended twice. First in 1976 by 42nd Amendment Act, which was passed during emergency, and second in 1978 by 44th Amendment Act, which was passed after emergency. Originally, Article 74 had only one clause. There were no second clause. Here you can see the original provision of Article 74 that said, there shall be a council of ministers with the Prime Minister at the head to aid and advise the President in the exercise of his functions. That's it. Short and open-ended. The original Article 74 did not clarify whether the President was bound to follow the advice or whether the President could send the advice back for reconsideration. By 42nd Amendment Act of 1976, the original Article 74 was amended for the first time. After amendment, Article 74 stated that there shall be a council of ministers with the Prime Minister at the head to aid and advise the President, who shall, in the exercise of his functions, act in accordance with the such advice. Now it was clearly stated the President must act according to the advice given by the Council of Ministers. There was no option to question or send the advice back for reconsideration. This was done during the emergency to centralize power. After this, the article was amended for the second time by 44th Amendment Act of 1978. Now this version strikes a balance. In this version of Article 74, the Council of Ministers can give advice to the President. However, the President can send that advice back for reconsideration. But this reconsideration can happen only once. The President must accept it if the advice is repeated by the Council of Ministers. This is the version we are currently using. Let's understand the second clause of Article 74. This article states that courts are not allowed to ask what advice the Council of Ministers gave to the President or whether any advice was given at all. This advice is confidential and outside the reach of judicial review. The purpose of adding this clause is to protect free and frank discussion between the President and ministers, to maintain secrecy of cabinet decisions, and to uphold the principle of collective responsibility. Suppose a decision is challenged in court. The court can examine the final action or decision, but it cannot ask what advice the ministers gave to the President before that decision. This is what the second clause of Article 74 says. So that's all for today. In this video, we have discussed Article 73 and Article 74 in detail. In the next video, we will go with our further articles. Until then, thank you so much for watching and supporting PictoLearning.